All right, guys. So I am really excited today because I am interviewing someone that I am lucky enough to call a friend, and also someone amazing and incredible in the sports area of cricket, Ben Cutting. Welcome.
Thanks for having me in this beautiful, renovated, newly finished home.
Thank you. It's been an exciting journey, just like yours. So you have had so much success on the cricket field, playing for Australia, all over the world. And we were just talking about hitting sixes. I don't know what that is, but we'll chat. What I wanted to do was get you in. I've been so lucky to know you for the amount of time I've known you and never been invited to a game. But I wanted to get you here because I feel like any athlete, right, and you're an amazing athlete, has a lot of strengths.
Yeah.
And I feel like athletes are what I would say like business entrepreneurs or business owners are athletes in their own right because we're like running a marathon every day. And now you know that side as well.
Yes.
But I wanted to get you on so we can chat about obviously some things about lessons and things that you've learned around playing professional sport. And then also what you were doing on the side. I'm not going to give too much away, but what you were doing on the side, building wealth behind the scenes.
Yep.
And now that you've officially left the cricket?
I
not officially?
don't play in Australia anymore. I
Okay.
had a couple of bad spinal injuries. I had some big
Yeah.
surgeries. So I still play a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 tournaments a year, and they're all overseas. There's nothing within Australia anymore, but
Okay, so semi-retired.
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 The grey.
Can you ever really give something you love up? I don't know.
Probably not, no. That's probably why I'm still dabbling and playing, and when I probably should give it up, to be fair.
Yeah, okay. So then you've been now working on the property side. So I'm going to start, before I go into your journey on now wanting to help other people create success, because you have been successful. I've known you for a long time. I wanted to just start with, people probably didn't even know that we were mates, because I know a lot of people when they've seen me talk to you or whatever, they're like, oh my God, how do you know him? Or can you get him to sign something for me? And I've been like, I don't know, I haven't even been to a game, seriously. So I wanted to start by telling the audience about how we first met, and I guess, can you remember your life when I'll tell you what I remember about you back then, but
This could be dangerous.
no, as in, it won't be dangerous. As in, like, I think you were just starting, but I'll
Yeah.
let everyone know how we met.
I think it was probably about, well, I'm 38 now, so it was probably about 15 or 16 years ago where it was my first property I bought. It was a 1-bed plus study apartment in Portside.
Yeah.
Not the Portside that we know it now. When you
Yeah.
and I were there, there was
Yeah.
only probably 2 towers, a bunch of restaurants and a bar.
really
very
good bar.
quiet, a lot of fun. It was a great bar. But I think we were living in the same building, so I
Yeah.
think we just kept bumping into each other, whether it was
Yeah.
in a lift or in the car park. But yeah, that's how we got to know each other.
We met a lot of people in that building, actually. I remember that building was randomly one of the coolest places to be at the time.
Yes.
And I think that was back now. I don't know if it's the same in apartments, but we made friends with everyone in the building, so it was really cool. And I remember that as well. But I always remember seeing you in your training clothes.
Yes. Yeah.
So that would have been when you just started.
It was probably, so I started when I was 17, 18, so I probably had 4 or 5 years under my belt of being a rookie and being a young guy. It was probably early on in my career of being a professional athlete and playing
Yeah.
cricket for Queensland. I think I'd played 1 or 2 games for Australia at that point in time as well. So that's what enabled me to get on the property ladder as soon as I could. I think I paid $405,000 for that apartment back in the day.
Be like, I don't know, did it have water views?
It
I
had-
was in a 1-bedroom too.
Yeah, 1-bed study.
Yeah,
I was on the
looking
top
at
level.
the ocean.
Looking at there, I was looking over the pool towards the city.
Yeah.
And I lived there for about 5 years before I bought, up spec and bought a house.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, I was rent vesting then, so I didn't
Smart.
I didn't own that apartment, but I would say it was still one of my favorite places
Yes.
back then to live, because
Yep.
I was on the other side. I had a massive 1-bedroom,
Yep.
and it was looking at the water, and that side of the water is just beautiful and blue.
It is,
right?
yeah. And it was a lot quieter back then
Yeah.
than it is now.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying how communal it was. We had an open door policy on level 8.
So you just could go in.
Pretty much like on a Friday night for drinks or a Saturday after party. I remember waking up one morning, we'd all been down to Biblos.
Yes,
had
I used to
quite a
steal
few
their
drinks.
glasses.
Yes.
Oh, not steal.
Yes.
Never stealing.
No.
I just
Borrowed.
walked home and finished my drink and returned it the next day.
And that was when Farmer Wants a Wife had first started.
Yes.
And I remember waking up the next morning, walking out of my bedroom, and the bloke that came second on Farmer Wants a Wife was sleeping on my couch.
What?
No idea where he came from, but he knew someone else that lived in the building.
Oh my
and
God.
He just needed a place to crash, and I don't remember him coming in at all.
I hosted in this one bedroom apartment, I hosted many hens parties because my friends were always like, it was more inner city, right? They'd always go out and be like, oh, we need somewhere. And I had like 20 people in my apartment at one time.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, like we're in this beautiful house that we've just finished renovating. It's 5 bedrooms. And I was saying, you know, every time I build or I own something that's got extra bedrooms, it's got entertainment space, no one ever comes over. Right? And then you have a 1-bedroom apartment, everybody wants to stay.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened to me so much. You probably found it with your place now too, right?
Yeah, to an extent, yeah. I've just finished the pool area, Erin and I, so we love entertaining, getting out in the pool,
Yes.
which we never had before that.
Pool. Okay, got to make the use of the pool.
Gotta make
I've
the
used
use.
this pool a few times.
Yeah.
Cool. So growing up, like, did you always, like, was cricket your number one? It was always...
It was always
from
cricket.
what age?
Oh, from probably 6 or 7 years of age. Dad played, didn't play professionally, but he played a lot, loved the game. I think him and Mum played mixed indoor cricket for a while too.
Wow.
So I sort of picked it up from them. My little brother came along and we were on acreage south of Brisbane, so we had plenty of space to play as kids, and it probably just stemmed from there. We played all the sports, but cricket was always the number one.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. Well, for me, I was totally not going to do what I'm doing now.
No.
I always love hearing if people are like, was your dream this? Did you always dream that? I was like, no, I had no idea I was doing that. I was going to be an actor. It's so not.
Ideas
the same.
change, pathways
Yeah.
change, and you take the best avenue.
I think for me, it was more like I got my first job as quickly as possible, and that's always hospitality at like 14.
Yep.
And then from there, I thought, like, what's the top of that game? And then I went hotel management's the top. And then the owners of the place I was working at talked me out of it.
Yeah.
And that's when I went and did my marketing degree, business management,
Yeah.
and then fell into finance, and the rest is I kind of just learn and grow, right?
What's next?
What's next? More renos? I don't know. We'll talk about the renos and what I actually do. Okay, so what would you say, like in your cricket career, so you started playing so young, in your whole career, what were your highlights?
Highlights, the first one for me was getting my baggy maroon to play for Queensland and getting it from one of the greats at the time, Michael Kasprowicz.
Yeah.
I was pretty young. I think it was 2006, 2007 was my first contracted year, so it was probably the year after that I first played. So, after that, getting to play for Australia, spending a lot of my time overseas playing, tournaments like the IPL, which they're the biggest cricket leagues in the world, on par with the EPL and all that sort of stuff. So to get and play, I did 8 seasons over there, various cities from Mumbai to Hyderabad. But the biggest highlight for me was the 2016 IPL final. So I hadn't played a lot early in the season, finished the season strongly, and I was actually man of the match in that
Wow.
final. And we were coming up against a team that was almost undefeated for the entire year. So it was really a David and Goliath battle, our team versus theirs. So to win and to perform well on that big stage, that's probably the key career highlight for me. That
Wow.
one.
So do you have like a trophy?
I've got a trophy at
mantle?
home. I've got the shirt signed
that's so
and framed
cool.
on the wall. It was good memories.
Just reminded me of like, when you watch these documentaries about like players,
Yep.
it's so, I don't know, I find it so inspiring because most athletes, I would call you an athlete, right? I'm not like out of context here.
No.
Yeah, athlete. Because
Yeah.
I was thinking athletics for a second there. Athlete. They've always wanted to do it and their parents did it or something.
Yeah.
So like it's so inspiring when you watch these or hear about these journeys because like I can only imagine playing on the world stage and then getting a that would be, wow. Did you visualize that?
No, but I do remember walking into the game for how big it was. And when you're playing in India, you're looking at hundreds of millions of eyes watching this specific game. And I just remember being far too relaxed than I should have been walking into such a big game. As a fairly young player in the team at that point in time, compared to some of the other guys, some of the Indian greats that were in our team then. So I think everything just flowed on from there. We had our backs against the wall in that particular game, and managed to dig ourselves out of it with the bat and then again with the ball. But we had heaps of players in our team that all put us there in the final in the first place, and everyone the atmosphere was amazing. It was
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, even though I don't really know much about cricket, I do know that that's a big thing, especially in India. Like, they're just obsessed with it.
They are,
so it would be really amazing to be there. That's awesome. So, what do you think, like in terms of being successful, what do you think people don't see? Because I actually was talking about this in terms of property to someone this morning. What do people not see about the success that's required? So, like maybe 2 or 3 things where people don't realise how difficult it is to reach that level.
It's an easy one, to be honest, and whether it's business or property or professional sport, it's the setbacks, the long hours, the disappointments that come with it all. That's what nobody else sees.
What's a disappointment for you?
I suppose in cricket, non-selection or a form slump, missing out on a team that you thought you were going to be a part of, or playing 11 in a big game. And then obviously the big one, injury, which I had more than my fair share of at the start of my career, and that's probably how my career will end up finishing as well.
That's so hard. How do you prevent injury? Or how do you is there things that you guys have to do or be more mindful of? Because that would be along with any type of sport, because that could end you can end your career quickly.
Yep.
Like, I know other people that are in finance or property now that had their career ended much earlier than yours because of an injury they couldn't recover from.
And a lot of these you never see coming.
Yeah.
Whether it's an ACL in a rugby league game or a football game, too many concussions. Cricket is very, very similar. There's a lot more back injuries, hip injuries, knee injuries associated with that because of how hard bowling is on the body. But it's what you do away from the field that can sort of help with that, with your preparation, your training, your loading, and understanding your body. With all the setbacks, whether it's property or professional sport, you've got to know where your limitations are and slowly grind away at them and improve them.
Yeah, so your advice would be know where your weaknesses or limitations are, and rather than avoid them, step into that.
Lean into them,
Yeah, so then try to improve that. That's a good one, because I hate lunges.
Yep. You have to lean into lunges.
I've got to do my
physically
lunges.
and mentally.
When I train, I'm like, don't give me lunges to my trainer.
Yeah.
Anything but lunges. And she's like, I'm going to give you more lunges. I know that's just really off topic.
But that probably extends to business as well. Even
Yes.
As a real estate agent, you pick up the phone and make that cold call. Call someone you don't want to give the bad news to, but you have to. It's just getting on the front foot and taking it head on, I guess.
Yeah, everyone knows this, but you don't learn anything from your wins. You only learn from your losses.
Yep.
So, the more losses, the more growth, and the more further. I think that's when people probably look at it, and we'll move on to the property side soon. The people that have made it the furthest, I feel, are the people that have had the most setbacks.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a testament, I think, to you, and also when people know my story, I've had every possible setback, and I've still just done it. So it gives you the resilience to keep moving on.
That's right.
Okay, so, all right, this is a good one.
Oh boy.
When you started making money, the good money, what's the stupidest thing you bought?
I bought Dad's car off him, which was an old Holden Statesman at the time.
I remember the
I dropped it as
Statesman.
low as possible on a big set of rims and put a sound system in it, which wasn't big money by any stretch. It was a couple of thousand at that point in time. But in saying that, my first contract as a rookie player was $10,500 a year.
Wow.
So that was my very first year. For 2 years, I was on $10,500. Jumped up to 20 and 30 from there on in.
How old were you?
I was 18.
That's such little money. I think that's actually going to be incredible for people to hear, because that is less than standard. I don't even know if that's legally, but of course, if you want to, I guess you're paying to be a part of something. But a lot of people, that's so good for people. I did not know that about professional football, that it was that low. That's not even minimum living.
So 2006, as a rookie contracted player, which means you had to be under 21 years of age, within the Cricket Australia circles, it was $10,500 was the base contract. Wow. But when you break that down into all the hours you're training, and you're playing on Saturdays and Sundays for your local club as well as part of your contract, it's not even minimum wage. But It's not about the money.
You pay.
I would have done that for free, and I still would do that for free because it's not about that.
No, it's not. And that's the whole thing. It's never going to be about the money to succeed. And like, I mean, I remember the first month I earned $5,000 in my business, and I thought it was fucking, raining it. I was like so happy.
Yeah.
The amount of doors I knocked and, you know, all of that yellow, white pages. But I did not know that. I knew it was low, but yeah. So how much was the car then?
I did a payment plan with Dad. I think I paid $10,000 for it over
Payment plan as
2
well.
years, and I was still living at home, so I was very lucky.
Yes.
You know, the base contracts these days are considerably higher than that, but it was probably all relative back in the day.
That's pretty
as well.
funny. Okay, well, mine's way worse than that, so I won't share it. When I first made money, like that wasn't real money. I spent stupid money at an airport on like designer stuff, like that I don't even have anymore, that I like just got rid of. But that was like the stupidest, you know, like I'm at the airport, I've got 2 hours to kill and I'm just going to blow it on like...
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
No, it's a stupid thing,
Yeah,
you know.
but it's a reward at that point in time.
No, but it's actually dumb because I don't even have any of that stuff anymore. And I'm so not, like, I'd have to absolutely love stuff and I, you know, but I was just, you know, so I would say that was like my stupid thing. All right. So you obviously had to be good with money.
Yes.
So what are your, like, what would be how you managed your money? And obviously living at home as long as possible helped.
Yep.
And I tell kids, younger people these days, like, stay at home as long as you can and like buy an investment property.
Yep, 100%.
So what are some tips that you have for like how to be better with your money at that age?
I think and this stems from Dad. Dad was very successful in a finance background, so he gave me all the skills to understand spreadsheets and cash flows and all that sort of stuff. So that's probably where it all started.
Yeah.
And he drilled that into me, which I'm very thankful for now, but I was so frustrated with at the time because, Dad, I've got this money, can I just go spend it on that?
Oh, you're lucky.
There's greater things at play here. You've got to keep putting it away for a rainy day.
That's awesome. That's a lot of people don't have that support from their parents, and a lot of parents don't know about money.
Yeah.
But so what you're saying is he taught you about balancing what's coming in and putting out.
100%. Yeah.
Amazing. A lot of people listening may not know this about you, but they may. I don't know. I don't feel like you've been that, you haven't really advertised it yet or anything, that you're actually helping other people with property now.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've been developing property for a while. Trying to remember how long now, but it's been a while.
Yeah, I think my first build, just a single house built to rent, was 2016, 17.
Yeah.
And slowly progressing in various projects or various sizes from there on in as well.
Yeah. Sizes and areas. So you've started that, but then now you're also helping other people find property.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when my spinal issues all started up probably 2 years ago now is when I set up the buyer's agency. So I'd done my real estate license, the full license through REIQ throughout COVID.
Yeah.
Because
How did you find that?
I was coming and going all the time in and out of the country for cricket tournaments.
Yeah.
So I would have done 6 or 7 months worth of hard quarantine over those 3 years.
Oh, great time to level up.
Exactly. So I just powered through it then with a view to knowing that I will use it at some point in time. And then when my back issues started is when I set that up.
Yeah.
I got an early client straight off the bat quite quickly through word of mouth with friends. And ever since then, I've just been ticking it away in the background while still training and playing. More recently, I'm still doing the buyer's agency, but going more into the selling side of things as well.
Which do you prefer, buying agent or selling agent?
I do enjoy the selling agent,
Yeah.
but it's a relatively new one for me, only the last 6, 7 months or so. They've each got their pros and their cons, but I certainly enjoy helping people find their homes. It doesn't matter who I'm working for, as long as they're finding them.
Yeah, there's something super special, like, you know, with real estate. I think I always feel like it's like you're helping someone with a dream, and it doesn't matter the price. I've got clients that are super young and I've helped them buy like something for 500 in a different area, and that ability to say I've helped someone buy their first property and seeing their journey, which you will eventually see when you've done it for longer, is watching someone's journey.
Yeah.
Because I know you'll end up having your clients for life because you're just that sort of person. You'll see them buy more, upgrade. I don't know, it's such a cool thing, not just the first, but where they land with real estate is an exciting journey. So
Yeah, and you would have seen exactly what you do, the advice that comes along with buying that for them or sourcing that for them, and then checking in with them a year or two later and seeing that their values have gone up and they've made money because of the decision that you made for them.
Yeah, excellent. So what do you think, in your opinion, separates a good property from a not so good property?
Oh, it's a long list of things, and I've seen them all, as I'm sure you have as well. Particularly recently, with all the rain, the cyclones, that's unearthed a whole new set of problems with mould and overland flow and everything else. I would always stay away from a buyer's agent perspective of properties that have any sort of flood overlay.
Yeah.
The amount of agents that say to me that it's never flooded. Like, yes, it has the flood overlay though.
Yeah.
Which means there's then
Chance.
a loading on your premium for insurance, which is an additional cost for my buyers. Whether it does or doesn't is a moot point. It's the fact that there's that additional cost there.
Yes, and it's so much now.
Yes.
Like, because my parents own a house on the river.
Yep.
And and they're retired.
Yep.
And like the insurance is ridiculous. It's like body corporate basically, fees.
Yeah.
What else would you say you would look out for?
Look, just the general things, termites, the fall of the property, particularly if you're looking to develop or renovate. I'll always try and find a block of land or a house that falls towards the street rather than away from the street. Because if there's not that stormwater provisions there, particularly in the older homes, that there never was, you can run into problems in trying to find that legal point of discharge. Little things like that you just don't think of when you're walking through a home for the first or second time and it all looks beautiful and amazing, but that's ticking on the emotions rather than, okay, let's break it down into the pros and the cons of everything.
Yep. And like, what's your advice? Actually, really good point about what you just said then. I'm just going to go back. A lot of people miss that flow of water. So like neighborhood as well. So like there's neighbors, I'm not going to mention names of people here, where they have actually built their drainage into your...
Yep.
And you don't know that till there's a massive storm. Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. And then you've got to spend all this money creating drainage for your place. So that's a really good point for anyone that is looking at buying established properties, especially houses. That's a good one. They're ones I've never heard before. Good.
Yeah, I've run into some of those recently with one of my own properties, particularly with the stormwater, where I knew I had fall from front to back of a metre, but I was also well aware that there was a legal point of discharge at the rear, supposedly.
Yeah, right.
Which didn't exist.
Yeah, like what we found here.
Yes.
There's no actual sewage line.
Yes, yeah, but that's part and parcel of, Brisbane is such an old city or old suburbs that you just never really know what's under the ground.
But that's the other point is like, if you are going to be renovating or buying something that's for renovating or developing, you need to make sure you've got a budget that allows for things that are not like, you're just not going to know about. Because that's where like, no matter what old property I've bought, no matter what inspections I've done, I've always had stuff happen that just, you could never, and it's a lot of money.
That's right.
It'll be not just like $5,000, but it'll all add up. So you should probably have a good kitty of maybe 50 to 100 grand as just like for things that you didn't pick up on.
Yeah.
So what about selling? Like, what's your advice to, like, what do you think is like your top 2 points of advice for someone selling to get the best price to sell?
It's probably one of those ones where, depending on your price point and your location, I've seen quite a few recently that the properties, they're beautiful. They're newly built or they're freshly renovated, but they're quite polarising. Which might be beautiful to some people and others will absolutely hate it. But the more buyers that you take out of the market, the less chance you are of getting that competitiveness between all the buyers and the bidders and getting the best price. So if you're developing or producing or renovating a property, regardless of what your own styles are, put your own little flair into it, but make sure that it's not too polarising so that everyone's going to love it.
Yeah, so for me, I was trying to work out what polarised meant because English is my second language. I was like, okay, I'm trying to get it. Yeah, so what you're saying, what you're saying, I love all of these words. What you're saying is don't be too, like if you're doing the reno to live in, don't put like something that not everyone would like.
Yeah.
And I've given that advice to friends as well before, and they're like, what do you think of this? And I'm like, do you really want to put that much pink in the, like in the stone? Like that's only going to ever appeal to people that like pink.
Right.
And a little bit's fine, but exactly, that's a good one. And any other points?
No, that's probably the biggest one for me. That's the one that I'm seeing quite recently as well, spending more time in the market, is just there's these big, beautiful houses that are really well done, but there's 1 or 2 aspects that are just too polarising. And it's the difference between getting a couple of buyers in the first 3 weeks and it's sitting there for 6, 7, 8 weeks and going stale.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Do you think staging or not staging a property?
I think staging.
And why?
It just creates that emotional connection for your buyers coming through. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to get you the best price, is the emotional side of things. Unless you're dealing with the investor market, which is very different.
I would still stage. I'm like all staging. And staging is expensive for people that don't know. It's like putting furniture and hiring furniture in the property.
Yep.
It could be, depending on the level of the property and size, it could be 5 all the way up, I don't know, 30 plus, you know, depending on how many weeks you're renting the furniture. But people like, holy crap, I'm not spending that money. But it could be a difference of 50 plus.
That's right.
For example, in the property that we're in now, without the furniture, like it just makes everything pop. And that's going to be hundreds of thousands of difference from staging or not staging. So I 100% agree. So, okay, let's go red flags.
Red flags.
Red flags in a property. So, okay, let's do 3 things, because I know that's, for me, this is not just property. It'll be like red flags for a property owner occupier, red flag for a investor, and a red flag for a developer, potential development.
Well, the overland flow or the flood overlays will tick all those 3.
Yes.
For me, as an owner occupier, personally, I hate darkness.
Yeah.
I love open, airy, light rooms, which is why when you were showing me through your house before, I kept commenting on how big your windows are. Because I love that aspect. Particularly in the older homes, it makes them feel so much bigger, again, than they already are. For an investor, it depends what you're after as an investor. If you're after the capital growth or you're after rental yield, and they're going to be 2 very different properties as well.
So red flag?
The red flag. Red flag for an investor. Look at the neighbourhood around you. From an investor perspective, for me, I'm looking at capital growth.
Yes.
So I want to know that I'm in a good area or a bridesmaid suburb, which is, you know, the suburb right next to the blue chip locations.
I love all your terms. I've been in real estate for like 22 years and I've not heard of bridesmaid. Is this cricket terminology that's brought into the property industry, or are they actually like...
I don't know, it's just what I've...
Is this REIQ? Is this the REIQ modules changed and I need to go back and learn the terminology?
I was on AI before I came.
Bridesmaid. I was thinking, is it because there's heaps of weddings there? Okay, so the bridesmaid is the not so good.
No, I would target the bridesmaid suburbs, you know, because they are the ones they're the next ones to go gangbusters.
Yeah.
You think about Hawthorn and Bulimba. Your bridesmaid suburbs would be Morningside, Cannon Hill, Seven Hills. They're the next ones to go.
I've been saying Cannon Hill for the last year to people, but yeah, that's good. And then developer red flag?
Developer red flags, the biggest ones definitely, you know, things like, depending what you're trying to put on there and what your yield is, look at your car parking rates, little things like that it might look feasible, and then you add the car parking rate into the mix and it just blows the whole project out of the water because council won't allow it.
Yes.
And just because a property is zoned for development doesn't mean it's feasible too.
That's a good one. So for people that are listening that don't know what Ben's talking about, depending on the size of the development, you have to have a certain number of car parks as a legal requirement to get approval. So if you thought you were going to put like 6 units, there might be the requirement that you need to have 1 car park and a certain number of visitors, but you can't actually build that. So then that throws out your whole reason for buying this development site that was going to be a huge uplift. So I would say, I'll give you my red flag. Yep. My homeowner, home buyer red flag would be like not knowing what you're actually buying, which is similar to what you said. It's like, you don't know that you're like going to have to spend money on certain things. Your pest and building inspections are never going to tell you certain things. So it's like, are you going to overcapitalize as well? Like if you're thinking about renovating, are you already paying too much? And then you're going to put all this money in to fix it. Yeah. Investor red flag would be the developer itself. And the builder. Yeah. So what is the quality of the work that they've done? Are they actually going to build, you know, like what is this place going to look like after 5 years? And then developer red flag would be overcapitalizing again as a developer, not knowing. So I'm talking about other people here that I've seen make mistakes because being in like previously owning a project marketing agency, developers come to us after being to multiple people as well. And then they're like, why can't we sell this? It's like, you've priced it way wrong. Who gave you this pricing? And unfortunately, whoever sold them the development site has also upsold them the uplift price at the end. So people are doing a development thinking they're going to sell it at a price which they haven't got right. And so they build the product and it doesn't sell, or they have to reduce it and then they've got a lot of problems.
Yep.
Going back on the home builder red flag, a home buyer or renovator one, if you're going to renovate, still development, I guess, is actually not getting the right builder.
Yep.
They don't have the cash flow. They go bust. They don't finish your project.
Yep.
Red flags.
It's all quite daunting if you
Isn't
don't know
it?
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like everyone wants to be a developer and I'm like, no, you don't. I was talking about it to my hairdresser and she was like, how hard is it? I'm like, oh my God, like you would know this. Do you have a really, I'm going to go off topic, but stay on topic. Do you have a really bad experience that you've had with the trades? Like I'll give you a couple of mine so you know what context I'm talking about. So if people don't realize the crap you need to deal with when you're like even managing a project.
Yeah.
Like this is early on when I had like a plasterer and the wall wasn't like good and I was telling him that he needs to come back. So he came back and said, I'm not paying you till you fix it. And he just punched holes in the walls, right? So this is the kind of shit you have to deal with as a developer. I've had problems where people haven't done the job. I'm asking them to come back and fix it. And then there's name calling, bullying, like real personal digs, you know, like getting real mean and like high school shit,
That's
right?
wild.
Have you had any of that?
No, I haven't, but you've been in the game far longer than I have. You've got a lot more experience.
I've had an person, not naming names, we'll beat that one out. Refused to put a ladder in a certain spot when it was easy. And then I was like, you need to do it. And then he sat in his car and cried. I'm not joking.
You made him cry.
No, just like, what is going, like.
It sounds like you made him cry.
I'm actually really nice on site. But what I'm saying is, these are the parts, you know how you were talking about cricket. I was saying, you have to have thick skin.
Oh, yeah.
As well. Like, even as a guy, like being in the development game as a selling agent and a developer, as a selling agent, I had to build such thick skin being a girl.
Yeah.
Because I had to have blowing matches with people about stuff because I'm backing a client or something.
Yeah.
And then same with trades and stuff. Like if people think that they can pull it, they'll pull it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was just seeing if you had any funny stories to share around that, but you haven't, but maybe in a few years you will.
I've been very lucky so far. Even recently, I'd project managed my own backyard renovation. I was very, very lucky with trades. I've got some very good contacts that sort of point me in the right directions, but there will definitely come a time where I've gone down the wrong hole.
Yeah, I mean, I've got amazing trades and really good people, but then there's just that one person that comes in randomly or energetics you can't really control.
Yeah.
But just generally in the property game. Okay, so do you personally prefer building from like a whole new build or renovating?
Look, I haven't undertaken a renovation yet, so I know that building new, cheaper, easier, less headaches.
Yes.
Erin and I are planning to renovate. We bought an old Queenslander about 12 months ago, similar vintage to yours, 1920s.
Yep. Got all the ideas now.
Yeah, I've got some great chandeliers.
Just take note, guys. When we do the tour, if Ben's looks the same, we did it at first.
yeah, taking photos as I go. So when we get to that point in time, I'm working on all the landscaping, the backyard, the pool and everything first, and then we'll go internally, probably over the next couple of years.
Yeah, because you're living while you do it, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing a lot of it yourself.
For the internals, I'll get a builder to do it, but
Yeah.
the outside landscaping, pool and everything, I'll project manage.
Yeah. Okay, what did you do yourself?
I did a fair bit myself, particularly with so we had 800 square metres, all rock up on the hill in Hawthorne, so we dug a big pool. We took about 200 trucks of dirt out to level the backyard because our backyard was like that, and I wanted it all flat. Walking out from downstairs. So that was a big job.
So did you actually shovel it out?
No, I didn't shovel, but all the rain we've had.
Yes.
There was mornings there where if the footing was getting poured at 8:30, I was up at 4 a.m. pumping them empty, getting all the water out. Yeah.
Okay. What about hands-on stuff did you do?
Hands-on, dug a few holes.
Okay.
Yeah. Did all the backfilling, gravel, a lot of the mulch for behind the retaining walls as well. Wasn't a lot of fun. Mulch was okay, but
it's itchy.
The gravel and the ag
dust.
pipes and all that sort of stuff, I didn't enjoy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I actually do some stuff myself. We were talking about it earlier. In this property, I did the garbage. I did all the rubbish removal. I was in charge of rubbish removal. But
That is key. Garbage removal is key.
You know, keeping a site clean is difficult.
Safety.
Yeah.
You kept everyone safe. You actually struck me as a painter. I would have thought you'd plug the headphones in.
No, I really don't like painting. I have done many, like, you know, as you grow in the game, you do some stuff, you do a lot yourself, and you try to do a lot yourself, and then you just get other people to do it because they're better.
Yep.
But when I first had my first office in Stafford, I painted it myself, and that's from then on. I was like, I don't want to ever paint. I'm done. Like I realized that is like that's not for me. People like doing. I've painted a lot of offices, like small ones we've had over the years.
Yep.
But in the other properties, like I've put whole kitchens together.
Yep.
Like I'm more like actually hands-on make stuff.
Yep.
But this one, it's such a big job. I did like more the behind the scenes, manage the money and things like that. That was funny.
The business end.
Yeah, you're like, I dug a hole. Okay.
I dug a hole.
I built the pool. Okay, so what do you think, all right, if you had a limited budget to renovate something, what would you do first?
I'd probably look at the kitchens and bathrooms.
Yeah.
The wet areas, kitchen first.
Yes.
Because I think it's the kitchen, that's what plays on the emotions. That's where, as a family, you'll tend to spend most of your time, whether it's cooking or having meals.
Yes.
So that's a key aspect of the home.
That's where you should spend the most money, agreed. And then if you didn't even have the money for that, what would you do?
Landscaping's a big one for me.
Oh.
Yeah, I think landscaping plays a far more vital role in the uplift or value of a property than people recognise. Good lighting, good trees, low maintenance, I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I've never had that one. I would say paint, like a repaint. If you're really, really low on a budget, the paint brings up the property like so much, and flooring.
Yep.
Landscaping's expensive.
Landscaping is expensive.
So expensive.
It is, yeah.
People do not appreciate landscaping in a property. And I was like, we spent a lot on the landscaping here.
Yep.
But people will not really know that. You know, like they'll be like, oh, it looks nice. But like, man, and even in like, even apartment ones we've done landscape, it's like a lot, 20 plus, right? So yeah, it does add a lot, but people don't appreciate what goes into it.
Exactly.
You know, so that's a good one. Okay, I think you already answered this earlier, but I'm going to ask it again. Do you prefer, when you buy, are you looking more for yield or growth?
Early on in my playing career, I was looking purely for growth. I wanted capital growth because I wanted to, keep reaping the rewards of 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and them continuing to double in price.
Yes.
Towards the back end of my career, I tried to pivot more towards cash flow because I knew that my cricket income was going to slow down. So I needed to supplement that somehow or find a way to keep my high growth properties.
Yes.
Which is what we tried to do. All residential until about 12 months ago, we dove more into the commercial space. So we bought a commercial property over in Aspley. Mm-hmm. If I had my time again, I probably would have gone one less residential rental property and gone earlier on the commercial just for that cash flow, because you're still getting great capital growth through them as well. Yeah,
that's a good one. And I love that strategy. Did that come from your dad? Because he's got a finance background by any chance?
The cash flow?
No, like how you decided to go for growth and then later move towards yield.
Probably to an extent, yeah. But there was always, Dad was still very much of the old school that you have one or two homes and you pay off all the debt.
And that's it. Yeah, don't have debt.
That's right. Yeah. Whereas I was the other way.
Have debt when you've got income. Yeah. Because that's the reason why I ask is because my background's in finance, and that's literally what I tell people. At your early stages, when you've got the income and your income's on the way up, like your income's getting better and better and better, which is what was happening, go for growth because you can keep buying good quality, good location properties. But as you start to get towards retirement, so for you it's different because of the type of work you did, that's when you start looking towards the yield, because then you're replacing your income. But most of the time, if you bought the properties in good locations with the growth, their yield would be really high by then, so you could have sold a few to pay down and then had the income.
That's
as
right.
Well.
And even in the high growth properties, if you hold them for long enough, up 6-7 years, that rental yield will improve on them anyway, where you end up almost being neutral. If not positive on the good ones. It's just finding that balance and knowing where your income streams are going to come from or disappear as well.
Awesome. So any mistakes that you've seen you've made or your clients have made, whether it's like I've seen my clients make mistakes without me included, but come to me after they've made mistakes. Do you have any to share yet? Maybe not.
Not as such, no. I have seen those where they didn't move on a property that I advised them they probably should have.
Yeah.
That specific property didn't sell at the time. It would have been a steal at an early 3, and it sold 7 months later when it came back on the market for 4.
Yeah, wow.
Where we had the opportunity to pick it up in that low 3s.
What do you think? Because I have so many people like that after the time frame I've been, where they could have bought something, they didn't.
Yeah.
They pulled out and they lost that potential growth.
Yeah.
They didn't. What do you think is the reason why people like come to you and then they're like, yes, I really want to, and it's always the people that are really gung-ho, I found.
Yeah.
They're going too fast and you're like, slow down already.
Yeah.
And then they get to the final and then they pull out anyway. What do you think that is? And from your experience looking back towards those clients, because there's going to be a few people like that. Why do you think people get scared or?
I suppose everyone's appetite for risk is very, very different, and what's happening in their personal lives can affect that as well. If things are going well, they're getting bonuses at work, they feel flush, they might be happy to spend a little bit more or buy a property that they otherwise wouldn't. It's just little things like that ebb and flow, but the risk appetite is definitely a big one.
I reckon for me, it's like I can pick it from a mile away now, but it's actually got nothing to do with the property and everything to do with their mindset around like what they're worth or able to be, which people call in financial planning and finance risk appetite.
Yep.
But your risk appetite is actually really formed from when you're a child and what you see your parents do and how they teach you, right?
Yep.
So, and people you have as friends, things you read, people you follow. And so what happens is like, it's like the mindset around what they believe is possible. And they have fear because they think, I'm not going to have enough money, I'm going to lose my job, it's too much money, I'm not good, like this is way too good, or like, you know, all of these things come in, which then makes people pull out of a property. Until they do that, they miss the opportunity, they see what you were saying was true, then next time they never do it. Have you noticed? They'll come back and they'll listen to you. That's what I noticed. But, you know, sometimes like the question to ask people when investing especially is not like, you know, how much money do you want to spend? It's like, are you ready to make a decision on something? Like, where are you at? And have you fully gone through the process in your mind of buying this and having this mortgage and doing that? And if they can't say yes, then it's more about helping them understand and, you know, go through the motions, you know?
And having a plan. Like it's all well and good to go out and spend however much you want to spend on a house, but what's the plan? Is this are you going to live there for a year or two and then want to upgrade again? Does it have everything you need or want? Are you planning kids in the near future? Little things like that that might change, you know, drastically your life plans.
Your reasons why you're buying right now and how long, because that's totally like that's important, because that would change you from going into buying something and spending all your money knowing it's not there forever home.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so do you think that the skills that you built in cricket, like discipline, resilience, focus, are now helping you in property and business?
100%.
And how?
Yeah.
Like translating.
I suppose doing the little things. When I say doing the little things for training at the cricket field, it's getting up at 5 a.m. to go to the gym. It's doing the extras, doing that extra kilometre in the run when you don't want to or you don't feel like it. That translates to business, it translates to property. We spoke off air before about, as a selling agent, picking up the phone and making that phone call, the awkward call that you don't want to make because you know it's not going to go very well. But it's the right thing to do, and just continuing to do those little things right, away from the spotlight or away from eyes and people watching you. That's what the big guys do. That's what the great selling agents do. That's what the great players do. Yeah,
exactly. So it's the resilience that you had to build, the no's, the being rejected from the team that you wanted to get picked. Yeah, that's amazing. And then, so in sport, do they teach you like routine and structure, or do you have to implement your own routine and structure? Do you get what I'm saying? You know, when you started when you were young?
Routine and structure is ingrained into us. Early on in the day, We have a website we'll have to log into. It's got our calendar, basically where you have to be. The boys have it on their phones now. It's just an app on your phone. 9 a.m. you've got training, 10 a.m. you've got physio, 10:30 a.m. you've got a massage. And that is how your 7 days of the week is planned out through the app. So you get a lot of structure from that.
So someone else does that for you?
Someone else does that for you. My personality is already very structured like that, so I always struggled a little bit when that wasn't facilitated for me. But I've had to learn to put that in place because it works for me.
I was going to ask you that because that was another thing I wanted to ask is like how leaving or stopping, when you had the injuries,
Yep.
like for anyone that's like changing careers, retiring, or, how have you adapted to that identity shift or also adapted to someone doing everything for you? Because I can totally relate to this because I had like 2 EAs and then it's like, getting out and exiting and selling the businesses at different stages, not having, and I'm like, oh, can someone go do this? Or why isn't anyone reading my emails? So what were the things that you did to support you through that transition that could be some advice for other people that are looking to make a transition?
I suppose that having that structure, I wasn't very good at it early on. I learnt to be a lot better at it. So when it came time, 2017, 18, I went to more of a freelance cricket model, which at that point in time, there was only 2 of us in Australia that were doing it. Mm-hmm. And that's basically where we don't have that structure around us. We're not contracted to a domestic team here outside of 2 months for the Big Bash League. And we just travel all around the world and do our own things. So that's where your manager comes into play to facilitate that stuff. But I really had to be on top of my structure. There was no one pressuring me to rock up to training at a certain time. So I had to make sure that I was doing those little things myself. But for a lot of people, that's a drive issue, which I don't have any issues with drive, whether it's with training or playing or the real estate stuff. So that certainly helped me transition from full-time contracted to freelance to almost semi-retired.
So you think like the key is to find a routine?
Yep.
Yeah. So like if you're leaving something and you like say a career, you would just do the same things as if you were working. But what if you what did you do to fill up the time? What you're saying is you studied something, you learned a new skill.
Yep, studied, learned a new skill. When I was first contracted, so back when I was on 10.5 grand a year, we had a policy where you had to learn or earn. So you had to be studying or you had to get a part-time job.
So what did you study?
I was at Griffith University studying business and sport. Did 2.5 years of a 3-year.
How was the business? Did you learn anything?
I don't remember it.
Yeah, honestly, I did business too, and I was like, I did a diploma. I did project management diploma, but I did a Bachelor of Business, majoring in marketing, and the only things I really learnt was the marketing side. The business side is so irrelevant to a small business. It was more like corporations, like multinational companies. All right, so. I'm gonna come to the end of the interview now, but I'm gonna say what are you looking at doing next?
Good question.
Yeah.
We've got the renovation at home, which is our house. So that'll take some time. I've got another project in Morningside. I've had the site for 10 years.
Yeah.
Working through various stormwater headaches with that, trying to get that project out of the ground, and looking for something else, another project to do. For the pipeline in 12 or 18 months' time, whether that's putting a site for subdivision or apartments under option. So it gives me that lead-in time without the costs. We did a project last year with some great friends of ours, Alicia and Kadir Muratoglu, down at Burleigh Heads, which we did really well out of.
Nice.
So I'd like to go back down there and do another one of those projects again, but it's the market's interesting at the moment, as you're probably seeing, is at some point in time, the feasibilities for apartments are going to work again. They're not at the moment for your 1-bed, your 2-bed and your 3-bed apartments.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's all very high-end owner-occupier, downsizer or right-sizer as they call them. But I think it'll come full swing back to the smaller apartments at some point in time.
Yeah, there's just no 1 and 2 bedrooms hitting anymore.
No.
Yeah. So if you and I were to team up, what would we do in property?
How about 30 2-bed apartments?
Yeah, I think it would be definitely, we were already talking about things to do. I think it would be cool to do something where we would be keeping, I think
Yeah.
we talked about like maybe like a block of old flats or
Yeah.
something where we can also have yield, keep some, sell some.
Yeah.
Yeah, coastal would be nice.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we're both in the same transition. I mean, I've just finished this project. I've got another couple going on.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm sort of like looking for opportunities. But who knows, guys? We might have a team up and see what we can create.
We'd have some fun, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be really fun. All right, so if you could, I always like to finish off with this. If you could give your 20-year-old self advice around money or life,
Yep.
what would it be?
When you're 20, it's, you got the parties, you're hanging out with your mates,
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. It's easy to throw away your entire paycheck in 3 nights a week. Don't do it, because at 20 years old, you've still got your whole life ahead of you. And if you put it away and you're smart with it, you can buy your first property sooner than all your mates, which means you can get your second one, your third one, your fourth one, which means all of a sudden, come 40 or 50 years of age,
Yes.
you're self-sustainable, you're paying yourself an income. You get to go and play golf, you can go to the beach, you can do whatever you want. You can look after your kids, do the school pick up and drop off, travel the world. But it's those little sacrifices early on. You can still have your fun, still have your rewards, because you need them to keep ticking over, but keep putting money away and being smart with it.
Yeah, great advice.
What's yours?
Oh, pretty much the same. My advice is like, if you do have something that you're passionate about and like what you said with cricket, I didn't think I was going to get into real estate, but once I got into finance, I loved it and I loved that whole game. Just keep leveling up your skills and experience, but go all in on yourself.
Yep.
Like I had no experience. I had no idea about anything. And I just leaned into something which was helping people is what I loved.
Yep.
And like, I think along the way, people, if you are passionate about something, people will always help you.
Yep.
Right? So if you follow, like, don't be scared to go in. Like, that's the hardest thing, knowing what you love. Once you do know that, go in, go hard at a young age, make the money, make the connections, and then invest your money. Don't spend it. Like, I started young, like you did. And I was investing. I bought my first property as soon as I could. Like 19. Whatever I could, as soon as I could, then the next, then the next, then the next. So pretty much exactly what you said. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming today. I'd love to give you another tour of the property.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we're going to actually have a lot more to talk about. Hopefully I can get Ben back in a few years and we can see where we land. Maybe we're doing a project together, who knows, but we'll see you soon. Cool. I was also mindful someone's probably going to buzz at like 1:30 and I'm like looking at that, 1:27.
Well, you timed it perfectly.
I know, didn't I?
Nice work.
That was fun.
That's good.
Yeah, it was stupid. My phone screensaver. I'll leave that on. We'll do a bit of a walk through.
Just the quick stills as well.
Yes.
I got a few before.
Not so far away from each other.
Yeah. Okay, 1 second. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2. One more. 3, 2. Nice. Cool.
Thanks.
All good.
Yeah, we'll do like a
walkthrough.
yeah, and we can do